All right. Thanks, Nikki. It's so wonderful to be back with all of our XO buddies. Several of you I have been listening to carefully for some months now, and there are some new faces in the gallery, so welcome. I want to say this morning. I'm especially happy to see so that we have almost an even number of women. I will have an important message, especially for you today. Men, you won't be left out, but women, this is a special message that has been given to me recently, and I want to make sure that you have it. If you don't mind, what I'd like to do, instead of telling everyone about what we did, I'd like to put us in breakout rooms after each of us calculates our carbon footprint. Okay, so that's what we started with, was calculating our carbon footprint. And the reason I do that is because it gives us real personal evidence about where we are producing our own carbon pollution. So we'll start with that. And also a piece that we didn't get to last time was people were curious about me and what made me an activist. So I'll do some amount of time on that today. So let me put in the chat, if I could, Nikki.
I've read the URL from Mossy Earth because everyone from Europe here.
Perfect. So everyone, the link that Nikki has just put in the chat, what I'd like you to do is to click on that and go through the process of calculating your carbon footprint. It should take you just some minutes. This is not a very strict numbers kind of thing. This is more a qualitative exercise. And the attendees last week or 2 weeks ago found it very insightful. Wouldn't you say, Marcus and Michaela?
No. I found it scarily, panickingly, soul-destroyingly awful.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you all back in the main room when you're finished. Please remember to put in the chat to remind Nikki when to close the breakout room. All right, enjoy. We'll see you back shocked. Okay, fantastic, everybody. Is everyone still breathing? Okay, all right. Niall, are you up for sharing anything that you discovered in that process?
Yes, I mean, I think, first of all, I'm not sure I put the right figure in for my energy consumption, because I'm not sure it's calculated that or included it, but I think I knew the main headlines, and I'm aware of what drives the carbon footprint in general. What I haven't had time to do is to look at the details. And I think what's surprising for me is I didn't realize how much, at least in my results, if I've done it correctly, what the percentage of the household for food waste is a very big proportion. But I suspect that's because it hasn't taken into account, or I've done something wrong with the energy.
Well, you're probably not off base. About 40% of the food that we produce worldwide is wasted.
Yeah.
So what are some solutions to that? Buy local. Only buy what you need when you need it, or buy in quantity from a local producer and set it aside and keep tapping into that resource.
Right.
Also, less packaging. The packaging can be a huge piece of the waste. So the way in which you access your food, if you bring your own bag, or if you do a cooperative with a local farmer, just some things to think about.
Yeah, sure. And do you have any, because we live right in the middle of London, do you have any advice for someone living right in the heart of a city, or any additional advice? I mean, all of those points are really valid, Kat, and I think I can try and improve for sure.
Yeah.
But any other specific tips for people in the middle of a big city?
Here, I don't know in London specifically, but I know that there's a growing market for locally produced and distributed foods. Here in America, we have several smaller boutique grocery chains that accommodate that kind of a shopper. The produce tends to be somewhat more expensive, but if you consider the decrease in the cost to human health, the congestion in traffic, all of that combined, you're actually probably doing something much better. Are there grocery chains that you're aware of in London that
I think I'd need to look into the details of the supply chain, but I think there are there's HelloFresh and a few others that deliver to your door, and we tend not to use them as much. It's just difficult to coordinate with our lifestyle, but I will now for sure, and have a look at whether or not they are using local produce and what their transport and carbon footprint looks like.
There is a beautiful grocery store in San Francisco. It's called Rainbow Grocery, and for 50% of everything that you can buy there, you bring your own packaging. So it's open and you buy there and put it in your own packaging. And I see this happening. Some of the grocery chains in Austria started doing this, at least for a few things. For the Rainbow Grocery, it's 50% of everything. You just bring the packaging and you fill it in your own packaging. I think this is something to search for, because when you bring your packaging, instead of buying it, even if it's organic in packaging, it's packaging. And you're not good only because you're less bad. And I think bringing your own packaging makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Niall,
Yes,
I'm a bit of an arse. I buy at a grocery store called Sainsbury's and a grocery store called Waitrose. And when I buy stuff which is packaged, I take the food out of the packaging, put it in my bag, and leave them the packaging. And I say that to everybody else.
yes.
So my waste bin of packaging used to be really big. It's now tiny.
I like that.
So
I like that, Marcus.
I'm not using so many miles in discarding the crap which I've bought. And it also tells the shops, stop this shit.
Yeah. I think that's the more powerful message, isn't it? That's great. Yeah.
It's great. And other people look at me and they go, yeah, this is ridiculous. I go, yeah, it is ridiculous, isn't it? Wrapping a bloody banana in a plastic bag is stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Marcus. What are all these bloody apples wrapped in plastic? Yeah, you're right, Marcus.
Yeah.
I love it. Be the change, Marcus. A big piece is to model the change. It works a lot better if you just show up and be yourself, informed as much as possible. But people notice at that grocery store line, people are looking around, cheering you on. Yes, that's what we want.
They do.
That's great.
All right, so that was food.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else, Niall, that you noticed?
No, I mean, it was according to this, 95% of my footprint. So that's the big one I've got to change. I think we do have a green tariff, and I think all our energy is renewable. So that keeps the energy tariff low, or the footprint low. I don't commute because I work from home. I live in central London, so I tend to walk most places, apart from when I see Marcus, for example. And that's public transport. And that was bus, yeah, public transport. So no, I mean, I think that really is it's quite an insight, actually. That's my major element of carbon footprint until I, potentially have to travel on business again by air. But the last year or so, it's been zero.
And surprising, right? You felt like you've got renewable energy, you don't make big airline trips. You were thinking that, hey, I'm doing pretty good on this carbon thing, no problem. So
but apart from the apart from the food and waste, yeah.
So we're all gonna find that we do really fabulous in some areas and not so great in others. The thing is, just join your own head and your heart, keep yourself informed and make your choices from your heart. Then you'll avoid your own judgment about where you're falling short, and you'll just keep nudging yourself closer and closer to being a more decent human.
I
Okay.
think also, if I might chime in here, if you measure it, you change it. And I think it's good to come back to this once a month and just write it down and see if it changes, if your behavior is actually measurable. Because I think if you change your behavior and you see it in numbers, this is really motivating to keep on going on a different path and improving. The advantage and disadvantages for me was being in Dubai this August and putting my toes into the boiling ocean. And that was the first time why climate conversation was not something distant on Zoom, but something that I literally felt. And that made it super, super present for me, that we're not having a theoretical conversation here. This is not about lifestyle. This is about us deciding if we want to be around in 20 years or with a very, very limited freedom. Because of course we're going to be around in 50 years, but with an extremely limited freedom if we don't make radical changes and different decisions. And I think if you go back to this, Mossier Earth, I think is doing a great job because it's fast and it gives you a good feeling of how it's structured. And if you go there and put it in your calendar every, I don't know, 23rd of the month, make a quick test and write it down and see how it changes over the time, that might also impact future decisions.
Nikki, I love that you're always setting up personal guidelines and tests and processes. It's really helpful and wise. A monthly check-in is a great idea. All right.
Thank you. Thanks.
I would like to ask something because in the last time, of course, I'm trying to live in this way, but on the other side, I am economist as well. And I'm asking if we don't buy anything, if we don't buy anything, how is the influence for the economic side? How can we compare this or how can we have or status of our life? And this is that I am thinking about this, because if I buying a gene, somebody has a work with this gene, and if I don't buy it, how can we compare? Because the other side, we don't have other opportunities until now. We have to have innovate to find a way how can we support this side of in the future missing economy. What is your opinion in this way?
Yeah, first of all, let me ask you, on your own personal carbon footprint, Erica, where were you, where did you find yourself in that process? And then I'll answer your question about buying things and buying fashion specifically.
No, not fashions. I'm speaking general or
Okay.
common mindset of the people. If we are going in this direction, it is not a long way to reduce our possibilities in the macroeconomic perspective.
Yeah.
Because this is important, I think, from our general economic point of view, because I can live without a new gene. Okay, but what happened after that with the economic value chain in this procedure?
Right. Let me answer that question, but let me ask about your personal calculation first.
I don't have.
Oh, you didn't get to the finish point yet, so it didn't calculate it?
I finished this one.
You should have received an email.
You have to look for an email. The email will tell you from Mossy Earth.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
Okay. Okay, while you're looking that up, let me respond to that. There are basically 9 limitations to life on the planet. we've already exceeded the carrying capacity of 4 of those. So it's not Kate Rayworth, in her book, Donut Economics, I commend that to you, Erica. Are you familiar with that concept? Donut economics, being an economist?
Yeah. I am.
Okay. So I would say that that is probably the most significant retooling that economists can do. The question is, how do we get there? So things to consider: buy quality instead of quantity, make the things that you have bought last longer. There's a movement in Europe for the right to repair. It's just getting started here in America. We just had a TED Talk on it. But in Europe, you're actually able to do that. In America, you cannot repair your electronics, your iPhone. So that's, in many ways, Europe is farther ahead than we are here in America. So the traditional capitalist economy values nature only when it extracts nature. So a tree has no worth unless you cut it down and kill it. So there's a retooling that needs to occur in the minds of economists. Would you agree, Erica?
Yes, yes, I understand the approach, but from the other perspective, I don't have the solution.
Right.
If we don't fly to Asia from Europe, if we don't fly in like a tourism, how can live these people in Asia without our European money? And we don't have the other side. How can we support this general economic? This is what I'm thinking sometimes about this one.
I so appreciate, and I'm so glad that you're thinking about that. Did somebody want to say something, Sarah? Is that
Yeah,
you?
yeah, because
Okay.
I do work in the event business now, so we organize conferences. Now we have a lot of people flying also. So this is like, if they wouldn't move now that you can do again face to face, now we would be soon out of business. But we did this. The calculation of the carbon footprint like for our company last year, and we teamed up with the Brazilian startup, and they do this reforestation. So we offer this to our clients, because also if you fly, now you can try to compensate it. And I was surprised when we calculated it for an event which lasts maybe 2-3 days, and people are coming from maybe also worldwide journalists, and the cost, like, and I don't know, it was maybe that we created like 5 tons or even more tons, but then in credits, the cost to compensate and to invest it in this reforestation, it's so low. I was so surprised. Maybe it was like 4,000 euro or 5,000 euro, and then now the big companies are telling us it's not fitting in the budget. But it's like, if you compare this, but they can spend 10,000 euro on flowers, no, or I don't know, 20,000 euro on napkins or something. It's like, it's really, it's ridiculous. And I was surprised how cheap it was to really then to go into this to try to compensate the carbon footprint, because there are many ways, and I think they're really like not expensive.
Is that helpful, Erica?
Yes, of course, as I mentioned, I understand it, but in this case, how can we produce, for example, the pilot and the stewardess will be unemployed. It's okay,
Right.
but how can we create a new new possibilities for these people, for example?
I think if we go into the conversation, the consequences of everything, we're going into many dimensions, because
Got it.
there is a huge conversation on the change of the idea of job and money. And that comes after, of course, as a consequence of the exponential change of structures that and processes that we live by. A lot of organizations, a lot of industries, and that sounds terrible and harsh, but they have to close, because they don't stop producing trash, waste, harming our environment. Even if they employ 10,000 people, they have to stop this. So what shall we do with all these people? What shall we do with the redefinition of money is a complete separate conversation. And I think we have to have that conversation. And if that's something you want to have, that's what EXO ONE is for, because then I'm going to make it Thursday on that topic. But I just want to kind of shepherd Bart back to the main corridor of conversation that Kat is leading here, if that's okay.
Got it. Marcus, and then Eric, I'll say one thing, and go ahead, Marcus.
I just want to say one thing about this whole business about economics. So I'm an economist, I'm a financier and an accountant, and you can get really, really, really caught up in this crap about trying to keep people in jobs which nobody wants, which damage the environment. And I'll just give you one example. I was talking to Niall earlier. I met a guy who called himself being really keen on maintaining the equilibrium of the earth. And what he's now doing is he's making biodegradable landmines. So landmines which are designed to kill people, he's now making them biodegradable so that after 5 years they disintegrate. And I was saying, well, you know, that's really good, but you shouldn't make fucking landmines in the first place. And I would argue that saying, well, how do we keep pilots engaged? Don't fucking well fly unnecessarily. So I used to fly a lot, and I suddenly realized I'd be taking a plane to go and speak at a conference on the other side of the world for 3 or 4 hours. I mean, how stupid is that? You know? So let's get real. And let's stop all this rubbish which we're talking about, maintaining people living unfulfilling lives, doing jobs which they don't like, for stuff which we don't need. Stupid.
But as I said, it's a really, really big conversation. I would like to kind of stop here and steer back to the main part, if that's okay for you.
Yeah. So the what may help as kind of a guidepost on that, along with what Marcus was imploring us to do, is that there is no economy, Erica, on a dead planet. You've heard this before, and that's where we're headed. It's nothing short of that life has been so degraded now on the planet. We have so many species that are leaving us. We're creating a very lonely place in which to live. So there are really shocking statistics on the biodiversity loss that's happening right now. I don't want to leave my children a planet that doesn't have whales in it or turtles because they all go female because of the hot sun and they don't choose to become males. I'll send you, last night was on all of the comedy stations here in America. It was climate night. So as a follow-up to our conversation, I'll send that to you. Be sure and watch the one from Trevor Noah. So Erica, you have a very concerned, worried, dissatisfied look on your face. Hold on to that. Use that confusion, use that questioning to pull you into the process of shifting us to where we need to be. The thing to remember is that for us women, we know, do you have children? No, okay. Well, we have the ability in our bodies as women to bring life into the planet. It lives in our womb, and this is part of the message I wanted to deliver to the women today. It is time to value life. We have it coming from our bodies. We know the pain and suffering and deep core shift that it takes to bring life onto the planet. It's time for us to revalue life once again. So I'm just going to leave it there. I'll say something about that later. Okay. Was there anything in your personal calculation that you wanted to share? Any surprises there, Erica? No. Okay. So let me just say this about events. I'm a TEDx organizer. I've been producing events, live events in person for over a decade. I don't do that anymore. all of my events, all of my personal TEDx Vail events are online. I have less risk, less financial exposure. I reach a broader global community, and I can tailor my talks in such a way that I don't risk a speaker standing on stage and freezing. That being said, I do a youth event in the spring, but that's largely around the mentoring the local teens so they have those skill sets going forward. Okay. Is there anyone else who really wants to share something about your footprint at this point?
How about Johan?
Johan.
Well,
Hey, Peter, thanks for joining us.
I'm grateful I joined because I have to be honest, I was really thinking I'm doing well, in this space. I mean, I'm kind of, really leading a reasonable life. Now I travel a lot, and now I did, and I saw the results. And yeah, it's a bit shocking. I'm way above the average. And what surprised me, so I eat a lot of meat and dairy, so I never realized it has such an impact. Much more than, because I really expected that my travel, will be the main source of this score. Not at all. It's really the food. So I have to take some measures in this, in the food area. Less meat, less dairy, more vegetables, local. So yeah, it was a great insight actually. Sad but great, but I can still change it. So
Johanna, I have a rule by thumb because I've stopped eating meat, I don't know, 3 months ago, and because I love meat, it's hard for me. So my rule by thumb is the animal must have died no further than 30 kilometers away from the plate, because that entails a higher likelihood of no industrial meat production along the way. So I go to restaurants and ask them, where is your food from? And when it's from a local farmer, I eat it. And when it's from something where I know it's distribution, I don't eat it. So that limits me down to a fraction of the food that I had before, but at a higher appreciation because it's really good food, because it's from some farmer or market where, they don't have 4,000 cows. I just read today, Greg isn't with us, but Greg is with Impossible Foods, and Impossible just launched a pig. 50 pigs per second are killed every minute, every second, 50 pigs. Okay.
Let's just settle into that. Just imagine if the table were turned and we were Homo sapiens, were the food source for pigs. Just settle into that. 50 of us every second slaughtered. And the living conditions within the time that we were alive, is that really the earth that we want to live on?
That's called Nazis.
Yeah. So it's not about shaming ourselves. It's about recognizing where we're at and making new choices. The great news is we are in a tipping point here in Alaska. I'll show you. Nikki asked me earlier, and everyone's always intrigued about Alaska. I'll just show you what it's like today. It's wild and woolly out here today. Normally there's an amazing view out, but the clouds are low and the sea is angry. There are 13 glaciers over there.
wow.
And Grewing Glacier, which I see from my room, recedes 98 feet a year now. That is like
30
that
meters.
is so fast. so fast. All right. Let's go on to count us in. And Marcus and Michaela, you were able to pop into that. I just want to give everyone this asset before we move on. And I'd like your experience of that, Michaela. So, so count us in. Nikki, can you put those 2 links in the chat for everyone, please? Count us in, or I can do it. Here we go.
I'm on my way. I'm doing it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so go ahead, Michaela. What did you find out?
I
in
wrote
that?
I wrote my points on a paper, the very traditional way.
Okay.
I didn't use any electricity. I just used my own power.
Perfect, perfect. All right. So we won't watch it today, but the links are in the chat, and I commend to you Count Us In. It's a system that you can use in any business, for yourself, in organizations, in neighborhood efforts that help you define how you're doing on your carbon pollution based on 16 metrics. Michaela, fill us in. I just asked her to give us a 1 on things that she had a long way to go. Is that how you understood it? And 5 was things that you were already doing very well in.
Okay, I had a 1 in driving electric.
Okay.
I'm not driving electric at all, or I'm driving by car, or I'm walking, or
Okay.
taking the train. Perhaps that's the only electric way, taking the train. I'm not flying at all. I haven't been flying the last, I don't know, for about the last 3 or 4 years. Even before Corona, I haven't been flying. And
let me say this about flying, because several of you have that in your profile. As was it Sarah who mentioned about airlines doing offsets? There are now some airlines that require a carbon offset. United in America, for example, is one of those. Go ahead, Michaela.
And I have another 1 at Get Some Solar. Yes, Get Some Solar. I wouldn't see any possibility to get some solar, because I'm living in an old house in Vienna. I don't know how you say it in English, Zinshaus. Nikki, perhaps Nikki, do you know the word? It's something typical for Europe.
A condo.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. These are very old houses from the 19th century.
Where you have thick walls.
Yes.
Like a little castle, actually, where Mickey lives.
Yeah.
Literally, when you look at it from the street, it looks like a little castle. I think it was something like that. It looks like a night castle.
So if you can't have solar on your own structure, there are options. You can offset it with your power generator, your utility. You can come together with a group of people in your local neighborhood and create a community solar farm. There are ways that people have found to get beyond that. There's a really good TED Talk that was just released, thinking about the future city. If everyone lived in one city and then nature were allowed to return to its basic surroundings, and solar is a part of that solution. Go ahead, Michaela.
And these are the 2 where I have 1, and I have a 5 in fly less, as I told before. In wearing clothes, Nikki knows I'm even wearing the clothes my mother had when she was 13 years old. And I was very lucky, because she was always very well dressed, and she kept everything. So I redid I went some of her clothes and adapted them for me. I have another 5 in repair and reuse. The same is with furniture. I have a lot of old furniture from different parts of the family, and I was buying some funny, funky textile to make them look more modern. So I have a very colorful apartment with very colorful but old furniture. And I'm also good in eating because I'm very much interested in eating. I also have been writing as a journalist about food. So I'm very informed about where you can buy your meat, where you can buy your cheese, about the farmer markets in Vienna, about the supermarkets, where the bags are only in paper, not in plastic anymore. And yes, I've always been interested in food. So these are also 2 points where I'm very good. And I'm always buying the food not longer for 2 or 3 days in advance. So I have to go to buy food every 2 or 3 days. And this has the advantage that the food is always fresh and I don't have many packages. And I can go, because I go to the market and I buy the fresh food.
Excellent. All right. So I'm going to be giving you lots of things that you may not be able to finish completely today, but they're resources that will take you from confusion, overwhelm, anger, angst to move you along. Especially Erica, I'm noticing that you're not getting your full solution. The world doesn't really have the full solution yet. The world is trying to figure this out. What we do know is that based on the feedback loops that we're getting now, our carrying capacity has been exceeded by 4 times, a factor of 4. So the systems, the institutions, the organizations, the processes that we're currently using are insufficient to create a survivable future for the life that we have on the planet. So be thinking, everyone, about your what are the things that you value, and we'll do a little thing about that. Nikki, can you show the 6 Americas clip, the 1-minute clip?
Yes, give me a second.
So what I'd like to do now is to just show you a little 1-minute piece. And then after that, we'll do a real quick quiz. It's called a sassy quiz. I think you might find that interesting. Okay, thanks so much, Nikki. Then can you pull up the, put in the chat, the sassy quiz?
Give me a second.
And if everyone would just take, let's give you 3 minutes to take this little quiz and then come on back. Let us know in the chat when you're done, okay?
Is there also something similar for Europe?
I haven't found anything like that yet, but I just wanted to give you a sense of where humans find themselves. I think Europe would be more informed than Americans generally, but humans are humans, and we
I wouldn't
have,
expect too much actually when I compare Americans with Europeans. I don't know if you put the Chinese people on that survey, how that would change.
yeah, I would like to see that too.
Yeah, this would be interesting.
Mhm. What did you, Peter, are you able to speak? Were you able to do that? Yeah, Nikki,
No,
go ahead.
unfortunately, I was not able to do it. Sorry about it.
All right, it's all good, all good. Okay. Let me at this point just ask anyone, maybe you could just, okay, alarmed, Marcus is alarmed, Niall is alarmed, Kunal, you're concerned. Maybe everyone could just put in the chat where you're at.
Maybe you want to invite Kunal to the hot seat because he was also expressing worries about the accuracy of the previous test.
Okay, go ahead, Kunal.
Yeah, so I know for a fact that in Germany, most of the public transport is electrified. So the local buses are electrified. The train around 100%. Öko is renewable energy. And I frequent a lot because I live in 2 cities. So every week I'm traveling. So my commute time is comparable to I mean, half my week is like commuting, you know. If I'm working 40 hours a week, 50 hours, 60 hours a week, I'm commuting at least like 20 hours a week or something like that.
Wow, that's
So
a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it's a lot, but at the same time, I'm using renewable energy. You know, like I mean, I know like traveling a lot is not good at all. But at the same time, I'm kind of comforting myself like, hey, I'm at least not using any polluting vehicles. You know, I don't own a car. The cars that we have at work and I used to go to my construction site for supervision are also electrified, you know, and I know for a fact. So that's where it kind of brings me to question, hey, maybe it's because as an individual, I'm doing a lot of travel, maybe. And the other thing is about the food. I live alone and I usually buy food for my needs because I'm always traveling. My refrigerator stays empty. Sometimes I just switch it off because there's nothing there. Other than summers, I don't really use refrigerators. And usually I'm cooking in one place and I'm carrying lunch with me to work also. So, I mean, there are no leftovers that go waste as such. So I kind of question, how can it be? You know?
Yeah, so keep in mind, this is just a qualitative broad stroke. I can share with you other ways of calculating it to get much more specific down to your energy bills, the number of miles that you travel, that whole thing. But this is just kind of a, oh, shall I wake up to some new reality?
Got it. Yeah.
All good. Okay, so we're all alarmed or concerned. You should be. Good, thank you. What I'd like to do now is, because we just have a short amount of time left, I'd like to answer the question that I didn't answer last time. There's still lots more, but Nikki, can you put in there the TEDx Vail countdown and the Living Brightly link? If this is something that really interests you and you want to dive deeper, I'm producing 2 events. One is TEDx Vail on October 30th, specifically focused on climate. TED will have a conference in Scotland with 45 speakers. I'm curating a couple of hours of that, and I'll share that freely with anyone who attends TEDx Fail Countdown. We'll also have some locally produced talks. And then to go even deeper, I'm doing a 3-day event called Living Brightly, and the links for both of those are in the chat. Okay, let's get back to who I am and why I'm doing this. And there is so much more that we could be doing. So what might that look like? Nikki, am I sharing my screen with you now?
Not yet, but you can.
Okay, let's try this. Okay, present. There we go. All right, now y'all see that we're about to begin. Okay, as you can see, the road is already bumpy. Whoa, some of us didn't realize how rough the road was that we were walking already. Even being informed, conscientious, decent humans, we found that there are still things that we can do better. Not to judge ourselves, but to just join in the effort for us all being more decent. Let's see if I can get that. Okay, so things that I've been doing, organizer for TEDx Vail since 2009. I walked across the country in the Great March for Climate Action, and I'm a climate reality leader, one of about 50,000 globally. So in walking across the country from LA to DC in 2014, I found that there were a lot of uninformed people who saw the weather as being extreme, but did not yet connect the dots. 8 years later in America, that question about climate has become polarized. And I just want to alert you to pay attention to American politics for the next couple of weeks. We have huge infrastructure bills that are pending, and that will affect climate funding for the whole planet. So if you have any connection to American politicians or people who are connected to politicians, let them know that you support what they're doing and that you want to see real, radical, immediate change. So after I walked across the country, I was arrested at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, protesting fracking, which releases methane. Methane is CH4. It's a gas that is far more lethal than carbon dioxide, but it lasts much shorter time, only a couple of weeks in the atmosphere. But the amount of fracking that has been propagated on the planet has really exploded over the last decade because the fossil fuel industry successfully convinced everyone that fracked gas, they call it euphemistically natural gas, was a bridge energy to cleaner energies. Fracking is deadly to our water, to our air quality, to our very community cohesiveness. You'll notice that in many places. So yeah, here I am with my buddies. And here's a lesson I learned. Hurt people hurt people. You'll notice that many of those I was surrounded by 6 police. All but one of them were Black men who I am guessing in their life had an unfortunate experience with police who in their lives harmed them. So the best thing that we can do is to heal ourselves, get right within ourselves so that we don't propagate bad behavior as human beings. So in 2015, at Paris, the whole world came together. It was such a joyous, exciting time. I had never experienced that except for when the inauguration of Barack Obama. The whole world equally had a very positive, upbeat note. We there passed the Paris Accords. Everyone agreed that we needed to take immediate action on climate. And we are really going for 100% renewable energy. This is really the first COP in Scotland that will measure how far we have come along that pathway. So let's see, that picture was done by John Quigley, and you'll find, if you're interested in his work, many pieces that he's done that have to do with taking care of Earth. So then in April of 2017, on a hugely hot day, I was a part of also this march where I imagined the word economology, which I created to say it's an economy based on a balanced ecology. You would love this. What has, oh, I think we might have lost her. Our economist has dropped off, Nikki.
Erica, I think, yes, she mentioned earlier she had to go to a meeting.
Okay, all right. Well, these are places in which our carbon is costing us right now. I'm not going to dwell on this because this is all about the current crash. I'm a solutions person. I have been an activist. Now I'm an activator. So simply, what can we do to give the planet more than we take from it? Right now, as human beings, we are consuming like cancer in a body. We're eating up the cells, the life forces on the planet faster than they can regenerate. So another way of looking at your choices is, how can I give the planet more than I take from it? And we get to choose our future. If we had more time, I would be asking us to do just a little survey based on a 180-degree view on where we're sitting right now, and consider the things that we have surrounding us, where they came from, how they're produced, what materials are in them. Are they designed to last a long time or to be replaced frequently? What happens when they are at the end of their life cycle? Are they able to be repurposed? There's many questions that we can answer as a values proposition. So one thing I would encourage you to do is, on those 16 things, Marcus and Michaela, find those areas, and everyone else on your carbon footprint, find those areas and then make a pledge. Just a simple little thing. It doesn't need to be complicated. It's just a reminder of how to live life lighter and brighter on the planet. So this matters. I think you're understanding that. There's nothing that you can do about climate, except there is everything that each one of us can do if we choose to do things differently individually. So if you work for a company, or you live in a city, or you have a phone or a brain, it's up to us to make those necessary shifts. Don't wait for the government. They're not coming to save us. The churches are not saving us. The companies may or may not save us, but the things that we control individually, if we amplify them over many billions of people, may make a contribution. Okay. So natural disasters, they are mounting. They, to me, are like the warning sign from Earth saying, warning, 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 do life differently. So climate change is human caused, and the natural disasters, we're going to see more drought, more the imbalance of the hydrological pathway is that certain areas are going to get much drier, others are going to get much wetter, colder, hotter. This kind of gentle undulation of the jet stream is now a wildly fluctuating zigzag. And that is not going to make life very smooth and predictable. The certainty that businesses rely on is shifting radically, as it has with COVID. So if you're working for or with companies, have this conversation. It might be uncomfortable, but it matters. So despair meet hope. What I like to say is actually despair meet courage. It takes courage to have some of these uncomfortable conversations. And if you're in a family unit, as I am, where some members don't understand climate impact, what can you do to nudge that conversation along? Active listening is a really important piece, and modeling the change. And then making it apparent that you're making those changes and why you're doing that. Watch TED Talks. So many great ideas on TED Talks. I can't encourage you to do that enough. So turn your fear, your alarm, your confusion into action. Nudge yourself. Move faster if you can. Encourage others to join you. It's always more fun to do it with others. Basically, it's time for us to turn the tide on climate together. And your action will inspire other people's action, and the earth will thank you. We have a bright future. It's action. The time for talking and considering is past. We had decades of doing that. The time for action is now. I can show you dozens of indicators here in Alaska that we are already in the tipping point. And we belong to each other. Wouldn't it be far more lovely to be in relationship, in cooperation and collaboration, rather than competition for increasingly rare resources? So that's all I have to say about myself. Plenty to say about that. Okay. Now let's move on to something. Any questions on any of that?
I bow for you.
Oh gosh, you're awesome. Thank you. Okay, let's pop on down here. I'm going to stop the share. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions on?
Can I ask a very indiscreet question?
Yeah.
How old are you?
Oh, I'm 63.
You're not.
Yeah. I was born in 58.
Oh, you're a youngster.
Well, I want to say this. The woman who was voted 3 times the mayor of our moving march across the country, let's see, so I was, I think, 50, I was 55 at the time. She was 70. So girls, we got to get our feet moving. This is not about making men wrong or bad. This is about accelerating the courage, the boldness of women to bring life alive again and value it in a new way. You heard me mention to Erica earlier that we only have economic activities in our accounting when something alive on the planet is taken out of its natural surroundings. That kind of accounting needs to shift. So the same probably could be said for our own bodies. Instead of taking things out, the things that we put in, what could we shift so that there's a bolder life force? Okay, let's, I'd like to show this little clip to everybody, if I could. This is, can you show that, Nikki? This is the race to save the world. It's just 2 minutes long, and I think it encapsulates some of the options of ways that we can show up on the planet right now.
While it is loading, Johan asked a very interesting question. Is there actually a transformation coach that helps you, right? There are personal trainers that visit you every week to figure out if you're in shape and do your workout. And
You're looking at her. That's what I do.
So
I support people in having their emotions about it and still taking action, because we just simply don't have time. We have to do both. We have to both handle our energy in motion. Our emotions are energy in motion, and doing that while we take action means that we're learning how to be better humans while being better for the planet. That's called a climate coach. There are about 1,200 of us around the planet. There's a climate coaching alliance. And I have to admit that this is a new, fairly new thing. And I thought I was the first until I realized that there are others on the planet doing it. And I'm so glad to find friends who understand that this is what we need to do right now.
And I just reposted in the chat the link to the deals. I want all of you to complete that form, and also you, Kat, because I think there's so much potential within that community to make change. That community is not Thursdays. That community is every minute you need us, any of us. We're around enough time zones that there will be someone awake, picking up the phone or answering on you. That's for everyone, but I need this where everything comes together. That's why I'm putting it down at this quick reminder. Everyone who's part of this, please go there and submit your strengths. Also you, Kat, because what you're doing is needed. And I'm following your task to click on the trailer now. Shall I play that?
Yes, please do.
These are ordinary people that haven't been arrested before. None of us had been arrested before. I did then end up saying to my husband and my daughter that I might be in jail. For a mother to go to jail, that is what it's going to take to make a difference.
I got to shut off 590,000 barrels of tar sands filled with toxic chemicals. I knew that when I cut that chain and I opened that fence, that I was crossing a threshold that I couldn't uncross. That I had made a choice to go into another part of my life, and that I wasn't going to be able to step back from that.
There's enormous pressure on us because we cannot lose this case.
I have one last stab at this, and I am gonna try and take it with all my might.
There's this moment where you have to step out of this threshold of your own comfort and take a risk. They bring this beast, this monster, into the beautiful Salish Sea, and we get to fight it with kayaks. And all of a sudden, we had this incredible battle where we were winning, because we were winning the moral fight. The whole world was cheering for us. Once you join the battle, you're in the battle. You know, there's no, and then you're in.
That was our mayor. Thanks, Nikki, for showing that. So,
Arrested before. None of us had been arrested before.
Where is it?
I think if you just click stop, there you go. Okay. All right. Just a few minutes left. There are so many solutions. There are so many pathways getting there. Each one of us is different, as you can see from our own calculations this morning. Last time I gave you 5 S's. I'm just going to say what they are so that those of you who couldn't join us last time could get those. Social network, use it. If it's virtual or real, move closer to your network and be the change. Supportive, go for your positive emotions, listen to others, find recreational ways of connecting. Simple, make climate-friendly behaviors easy and convenient, then keep raising your own bar. Story-based, create meaningful connection in your community. Have carbon conversations, check out Transition Town. Signals, the fifth of the 5 S's, feeding back loops of ever-widening positive responses. You'll notice I don't personally use the word fight because I think that peace is a part of the solution, and fighting just makes us get on each other's sides, and it creates a division. Look for common ground, scale it, be consistent as much as you can. Whenever we make a change, it takes 42 days to actually activate a change in our own lives. So those of you who found food was a thing, it takes a while to make those changes. Find the person who can support you in doing that. Okay, now for women. Women are alarmed and concerned at a much higher level of sensitivity regarding risk and loss of life and aversion to the biodiversity crash that's happening on the planet. We're in the midst of the 6th mass extinction. We also tend to be motivated by relations, whether we brought children into the world ourselves or have siblings or just appreciate the nature of relationships, perhaps with nieces or nephews. Moms need to be spoken to based on a level of shared identities and values. Policy is not marketing. Use plain, vivid, universal, concrete language and meet your person in conversation where they're at. So I ski with a Trumper who doesn't believe in climate change, have done that for 15 years. Slowly, he's starting to say, well, maybe climate is a thing, but I'm not quite sure it's human caused yet. So it is human caused and we can do something about it. And then finally, especially for those of you who are in an arena where there are women of color, they are the backbone of change and they're highly underrepresented in media. Find ways to amplify their voice and fund their work. And lastly, marketing is not engagement. Create safe spaces for conversation and connect, connect, connect. Connect your own head with your heart to your hands. Get stuff done. So think about this. Get to buy. Get to who we are targeting. Who are those people who we want to see things and do things differently with? 2, do what we want them to do, and buy how we are going to convince them. Get to buy. Now, Nikki, would you please play your clip? And then after that, I'll have, oh, you don't have it, do you? I have it.
You have it.
Okay, that's because I didn't want you to see it. Okay, let's share the screen here. One moment. We're gonna choose this one. And choose that one. Let's see. Forgive me. This is the one thing on Zoom that I'm never really fabulous at. Share this. And let's share this. Can you see this little thing with Nikki? Are you able to see that?
I can see it.
You can? Can everyone see that? Okay. I want to
Yes.
make sure that everyone can see this. Okay, fantastic. Okay, darling. This is part of a series of 28 conversations that TEDxVale hosted last summer. I was recovering, still am recovering. I'm a long hauler in COVID. So I was asking myself, what could we learn from this emergency that we might be able to apply to the climate emergency, seeing that in my own body, COVID was pure chaos. Every few days, different symptoms. The same is happening on the planet. We're getting wildfires, drought. It's like putting fingers in the dike, and it just keeps getting more and more pressure on it. So in that process, these conversations were based on 14 different topics, everything from earth, art, ideas, technology, mental health. Nikki was a part of one of those conversations, and we are creating what we think is a new genre. It's these little tiny quotes by important people giving us clues. So pause, countdown, COVID clues, climate acts, local impacts. Can you play that? Or yeah, there we go.
That innovation was an ivory tower. Elite X is the only thing. It required a lot of power, a huge network, a lot of time, a lot of boundaries to actually change something. We don't have these excuses today. We can reach 2 billion people overnight.
There you go, Nikki.
That was my voice.
So say something about that.
I'm paralyzed. I can't. It's emotional. There's also because of the thing that what I went through when I had that voice.
Yeah. So I'll say something then. This is a moment of great personal disruption. None of us is in the same place we were before. And we're not going to ever be in that place again. So I implore you to find your own path, accelerate your own progress. And in final words, I want to share this with you from Kuyuk, who is the Aleut elder who has been guiding me for many years. He and I have served on Wild Foundation's board for 16 years. And this is what he asked me to share with you. Let go of the sides of the riverbank. In other words, whatever we are attached to right now, and move to the center. Our hearts will find the answers. Move to the center of the river of life. It knows where we are going. Find those who have done the same. And the old definition of tribe will fade away. He received that information from Maori elders. So men, what does that mean for you? You need now to become far more comfortable in making decisions from your heart. Feel that energy, learn how to identify those emotions, and further find ways to express them. If it's your voice, if it's your writing, if it's your drawing, if it's your art, if it's your business, whatever pathway that is, it is now time for you to choose from your heart. Emotions, energy in motion. And for women, I will say again, it is time for us to choose from our womb. It is time for us to make choices from the place where life begins. So for all of us, that means our head, our heart, our hands, our wombs. That's how we make change. So that's enough for today.
And yes, it rarely happens that I run out of words. People who know me know that I'm always on the go. You can always press the play button and I'd say something. I'm out of words. That was of extreme value, Kat, and thank you for taking time again and doing this again. I feel like this is something we should do regularly, because we need to we need to have reminders. We need accountability buddies. We need to get pushed over the edge, because we know so many things, right? So little of this is new, and yet we don't do any of it. It takes so much for us to change, and we still behave as if we have the luxury of time and choice. And I think today you made it clear that we're all snowflakes, and this is an avalanche, and we're all responsible. And that doesn't work by putting your finger on someone else other than yourself. I want to say thank you. Thank you also in the name of everyone that you're doing this, that you shared that your work and your approach and your insights with us in these two sessions. And I also want to say thank you that you're part of the EXO ONE community. That means a lot to me.
Thank you, Nikki. It's a treat to play with all of you.
I wish you a thoughtful night, day, afternoon, wherever you are.
Yep, it's happening. The day is coming on strong and wild in Alaska. It's there.
Wow, isn't that great? Looks just like my back garden.
Have a really elementally profound day, everyone. We'll see you next Thursday.